What's going on, guys? Had to change spots, man. Too much light coming in. Just give everyone a chance to log in here. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, guys. Boom, boom, boom. Hey, good morning. While we wait for everyone to kind of log in, and looks like it's propagating pretty fast, open up your Canvas to the cardiovascular disease, or excuse me, the major killers module. And in particular, go to the atherosclerosis page. We go to atherosclerosis. Let's see here. Good morning, guys. Good morning. Good morning. A little chilly, but not too chilly. Yesterday was a beautiful day. Today looks like it's going to be another nice day. And pretty much 3 more weeks, guys. 3 more weeks for the most part. We have this week and next week. Obviously, next week is Thanksgiving. When we get back from Thanksgiving, that's the last week of instruction. So make sure you're staying on top of all your stuff, staying on top of what's due and the tests that are coming up and projects and so on and so forth. It's going to end fast. It's going to be real fast. So if you haven't put your knuckles to the grindstone yet, get on it this week. Knock some stuff out this week so Thanksgiving week isn't so bad, or at least not bombed out with a bunch of work that you got to do. Okay, so I think most people are here. We typically have around 18, so I'll just go ahead and start going here. Next Wednesday, or just next week in general, we'll just have one assignment. We're just basically Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. As far as this class is concerned, there won't be any work due. Okay. I always give the Wednesday before Thanksgiving off. Go start being with family, help mom and dad out, whatever, prep, whatever you got to do. So I'll send out an email at the beginning of next week, and I'll also remind you next week that basically Monday next week is our only day we'll be doing stuff, the only day you'll have an assignment. And then obviously enjoy your Thanksgiving, and we'll come back, and that'll be the last week of instruction. All right. That following week. So hopefully you've opened up your page to atherosclerosis. And this is what we're going to talk about just really briefly today: cardiovascular disease, a couple of important points about atherosclerosis. Because this is the heart of all, or this is at the heart of all cardiovascular incidents. So a stroke, a heart attack, irregular heartbeat, sometimes, not always necessarily with a irregular heartbeat. That can also be kind of like a genetic thing. Congestive heart failure, peripheral artery disease. All of these are forms of atherosclerosis, and ultimately what they represent is what we call, I spelled that wrong, inflammation, right? So just really quickly, let me explain what atherosclerosis is and what it means. Essentially what it means is the hardening of the artery, right? So I explained a little bit last week, the artery is a very pliable tissue in your body. And what happens is it's able to expand when more oxygen, nutrient, blood flow is needed, and it's able to obviously shrink back down when those needs or when we're at rest or when those needs aren't so high. If you were to fillet and look at the arterial wall, if you were to flay the artery and look at the arterial wall, what you'll find is millions and millions and millions of what we call endothelial cells, right? So these endothelial cells, what they do is they actually provide a gas, a nitric gas. They emit a gas, and that helps to keep blood and everything flowing through the arteries. Again, we have bad cholesterol, good cholesterol. The bad cholesterol being the type that wants to form plaque, right? Plaque formation on the arterial walls. What we're finding out is it's not necessarily, which we talked about last week. Fat doesn't necessarily mean, you consume fat, you'll get fat. What we're finding out is if you consume highly cooked foods, highly processed foods, foods that are very high in sugar, very low in nutrient value, foods that don't have live enzymes. So in lieu of eating an orange, you're drinking orange juice, or any of the highly processed type foods. What we're finding is the kind of the prevailing theory today is your body goes into what we call digestive leukocytosis. And what that is that's actually an immune response, right? The body, the blood, your tissues are reacting to what they think is some type of invasion. In other words, you're getting a white cell reaction. You're getting an immune response to the food that you eat. This causes inflammation in the body. And so that plaque formation becomes significantly easier to build up. Why? Go back to that filleted artery. Those endothelial cells, when they become inflamed, they lose their ability to produce that nitric gas, and they actually start to peel up, right? They scar. So it's similar to like gonorrhea. In the fallopian tubes, the little hairs, the surface of the fallopian tubes become damaged. They become inflamed, they become scarred, and it renders the female infertile. Same thing with like liver disease, sclerosis of the liver. It's inflammation, it's scarring that damages that tissue, and it ceases to function properly. It's the same thing with your arteries. The endothelial cells become inflamed, they peel up, and not only do they lose their ability to produce that nitric gas and kind of keep blood flowing, but they're peeled up. And now as LDL rolls through, it has something to latch onto. So if you look at the graphic there, what ultimately you see a hardening of the artery for a couple of reasons. Number one, the buildup that's taking place. Like if you look, at where it says plaque formation, that buildup not only causes a hardening, but it's a result of that artery's inability to now expand and contract, right? So essentially what we're finding out is inflammation damages the body at a cellular level, and then the larger systems of our tissues are no longer able to function properly. This is very similar to type 2 diabetes. People with type 2 diabetes, I mean, I would think if you're overweight and you have cardiovascular disease, even though you may not have diagnosed type 2 diabetes, you most likely have some form of type 2 diabetes. They act very similar. What happens with type 2 diabetics is when you get all all the way down to the capillaries. You get all the way down to like the smallest parts of where your body is getting blood in and out of different parts of your body, like your eyes, your fingertips, your toes. That's where diabetics start to really struggle. In other words, people who have diabetes for long periods of time, especially type 2, will suffer ocular degeneration. In other words, they have a hard time seeing. Some go blind. But more significantly, they have a hard time getting blood to their extremities, like their fingers, their toes. And it is not uncommon at all for type 2 diabetics as they age to have certain parts of their anatomy cut off because they're no longer getting blood flow to that. So fingers, hands, toes, feet, very, very, very common for type 2 diabetics to have those removed. So ultimately, again, it's inflammation that is causing these issues as a result of our diet as a whole, right? Not necessarily just kind of consuming one kind of fat. If you had to look at it, or if I was a betting man, my bet would be on disease lies within a diet that is both high in saturated fats, but it's also high in carbohydrate. In other words, it truly is a calorie game. So like I tell a lot of people when we talk about fitness and weight, when I've talked with athletes in the past or people in the past about managing their weight, to me, it's not necessarily, I mean, yes, there are some people out there, you do need to not drink milk or juice or bread for a while. I mean, you need to kind of get your body back into check. Give your body the ability to burn fat effectively, right? So give it good calories, give it a lower amount of calories for a while. But the bottom line is, managing your caloric intake is probably the best thing you can do. And that doesn't necessarily mean eat less. It just means spread out those calories. Don't, not eat anything all morning long. And then lunch, you go foot long teriyaki chicken sub, chips and a soda. And then you have this massive sugar spike. And then you do nothing. And then at 2:00 in the afternoon, you're taking a nap. Your metabolism is doing this. If we spread our calories out, give our body as much time as it needs to kind of disperse those calories, right? Use those calories. You'll maintain your weight more. And ultimately, that's what we're talking about. I mean, as long as you're within a respectable BMI as you age, for the most part, the numbers are on your side. In other words, you won't suffer from really severe forms of cardiovascular disease. You won't suffer from really severe forms of diabetes. It's not totally true, but it's mostly true that this is just an issue of maintaining your weight, right? Maintaining your weight, super, super important. Let's look at the next graphic here. If you scroll over, and so you have the next one, CVD, and the many forms of cardiovascular disease. Your assignment today, right? So I'll just go ahead and give you your assignment now. Your assignment today is you're going to pick one of these forms of cardiovascular disease. So if you're looking at it, okay, so one of them at the top left there is called coronary artery disease, right? Okay, so pick one. It doesn't have to be coronary artery disease. just pick one of these types that you see on this graphic, and I want you to define it, right? I want you to list the symptoms, right? Listed symptoms of disease, right? Or some of the characteristics of the disease. And ultimately, how to prevent getting that form of cardiovascular disease, right? Just a hint, how to prevent cardiovascular disease is going to be the same for all of them, right? They're atherosclerosis for the most part. Obviously with the heart, there's valves and there's other parts of the heart anatomy that could have a little bit of a different tinge to it, a little bit of a different kind of language to it and explanation. But ultimately, almost all forms of cardiovascular disease start with atherosclerosis. It starts with the buildup of plaque. And it also has to do with our ability to not or inability to remove toxins and remove plaque out of our systems, right? So rest, sleep, tissue regeneration, good therapeutic regeneration, like sauna, just polar plunge. I mean, I hate to say it, but if you have a pool in your backyard that's 65 degrees right now, one of the best ways to avoid dementia, right? One of the best ways to avoid a lot of forms of cardiovascular disease is just every morning, go jump in the shallow end, right? Go do a polar plunge and hop back out real quick and then go jump in the shower. There's something about that body regulation, temperature regulation that is really good on getting toxins, getting plaques, and getting that stuff out of the body. Heating yourself, like sitting in a really hot tub for 20 minutes, or, when things open back up, going to the gym and sitting in a sauna for 15, 20 minutes. I don't know if anyone goes to Western Village, but Western Village has a men's and women's sauna. Going and sitting in that sauna for 15, 20 minutes is therapeutically one of the best things you can do for yourself. And that's backed by pretty rock solid science. In other words, there's a protein reaction that takes place in your body that just eliminates bad things. It eliminates inflammation. Very good for tissue regeneration, very just good for overall health. So there's something about the extremes of body temperature and what your body goes through when it's put in those extreme situations. If you have a pool and you decide to do a polar plunge, I highly recommend that you do not do that alone, that there is someone there and there's definitely some type of safety device just in case you hit that water and lock up. That's real. There are people, they fall in the ocean or they fall in a lake in the middle of the wintertime, and all of a sudden they can't breathe. It can be a real struggle. So I would not recommend doing that alone. And even people sometimes in sauna situations can have a negative reaction too. I mean, just remember, you're putting your body at an extreme. You're putting stress on your body, but ultimately for a good thing, right? So anyways, I'm kind of rambling a little bit. Atherosclerosis, the hardening of the artery, endothelial cells that line the artery become inflamed with a poor diet. They lose their ability to produce a nitric gas. They peel up. LDL comes through, has a place to latch onto in there. Now the artery becomes hardened, and then it loses its pliability. And a breakage, ultimately, that's what a stroke or a heart attack is, right? It's a breakage of, it's an arterial breakage or blockage, right? Depending on the type of stroke or heart attack that we're talking about. Okay, assignment today, pick one of the forms of cardiovascular disease you see on the CVD page, I want you to A, define it, B, list the symptoms, and C, tell me how to prevent it. Okay. You got your Wednesday assignment here on Canvas. Next week, we're just going on Monday. And I'll give you an update Monday or later on in the week via email or via Canvas messaging, or email, their little email feature on what to expect next week and the week after that. And we're getting close to being done, guys. Have a good Monday. Later.